To many of his contemporaries, Byron's poetry and life embodied the romantic spirit. George Gordon's sixth Baron Byron was born in 1788. He was an unconventional aristocrat. Though rich and handsome, he had an handicap, a deformed foot. However, as a student at Cambridge University, he not only drank, gambled, and made brilliant conversation, but he forced himself to become skilled at physical sports. He also began to write poetry. In 1807, he published Hours of Idleness, a small volume of lyric poems, which was attacked in the page of the Edinburgh Review. Byron replied with English bards and Scotch reviewers, where he showed his taste for satire. In 1809, he set out on his grand tour, Portugal, Spain, Malta, Albania, Greece, and the Middle East, where he gathered the experiences giving rise to the first two cantos of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, which he published after his return to England in 1812. The cantos was so successful that Byron became a literary and a social celebrity. His reputation increased even further when he published a series of verse narratives, the Jair, the Corsair, and Lara, which suit the public given their exotic settings and the description of foreign customs. In 1815, Byron married Annabella Milbank, but the marriage collapsed the year later because of Byron's incestuous relationship with his half-sister Augusta Leith. Surrounded by scandal and doubts, he left England in 1816, never to return. He lived in Geneva, when he became a close friend of Percy B. Shelley, and wrote the third canto of Childe Harold. Then he moved to Venice, where he produced the tragedy Manfred, the fourth and last canto of Childe Harold. The more heroic poem Beppo, 1818, and began his masterpiece, the more epic Don Juan, 1819. Then he moved to Milan, where he became involved in the patriotic plots against Austrian rule, and eventually went to Pisa to join Shelley. After Shelley's death, he decided to commit himself to the Greek struggle of independence from Turkey. He organized an expedition and devoted himself to training the troops in Missolonghi, where he died in 1824, struck by a severe fever. His earth is buried in Greece, where he is still regarded as a national hero, but his body is interred in the family tomb in England. Although Byron never considered himself a romantic poet and criticized Wordsworth's Coleridge and Keats, he was the only English poet of his age to achieve a European reputation and to have a significant influence on other writers such as the Russians, Alexander Pushkin, Dostoevsky, the German Goethe, and French Honoré de Balzac. The Byronic hero. With his life and his works, Byron popularized the Byronic hero, a passionate, moody, restless, and mysterious man who hides some horrible stain or secret in his past. He is characterized by proud individualism and a rejection of the conventional moral rules of the society. He is an outsider, isolated and attractive at the same time. He is of noble birth, but wide and rough in his manners. His looks are hard but handsome. He has a great sensibility to nature and beauty, but is ground bored with the excesses and excitement of the world. Women cannot resist him, but he refuses their love. Men either admire or envy him. This blend of hidden suffering, rebelliousness, and romanticism was irresistible in Byron's age. Byron firmly believed in individual liberty and hated any sort of constraint. He wished to be himself without compromises, and he wanted all men to be free, and so went to fight against tyrants. He denounced the evils of society by using the witty style of 18th century poetry to convey a satirical aim. In the foreground there is always an isolated man whose feelings are reflected in the wildest exotic natural landscapes. So nature is not a source of consolation and joy. It does not embody any theory nor has any message to convey. He belongs to the second generation of Romantic poets. Byron's style. Byron continued to refer to 18th century poetic diction as regards style, even when his themes were romantic. The influence of neoclassical poetry can be traced also in the satirical aim of most of his poetry. Manfred. Byron subtitled Manfred a dramatic poem and called it metaphysical, since it explored cosmic relationships. Almost all the characters are spirits of the earth and air, or the waters. The hero Manfred is a sort of magician who is tormented by remorse, the cause of which is left half unexplained. He wanders about invoking the spirits which appear to him, but are of no use. Finally, he goes to the residence of the evil principal to evocate a ghost, which appears and gives him an ambiguous and disagreeable answer. In the third act, he is found by his attendants dying in a tower where he had studied his art. The hero, whose guilt and suffering give him the power to explore the secrets of the universe, is here caught in a moment of crisis. His torment seems to arise from his affair with his sister Astarte. This leads to the fragmentation of his personality and to the loss of identity, looking for a final solution in suicide. The story is set in the Alps, partly in Manfred's castle and partly in the mountains. The alpine landscape enters powerfully in the poem, with its peak and abysses. However, Manfred does not wish for a beneficent union with the natural elements. He rather wants his domination over them and beyond them. In this respect, Manfred is a Promethean play, asserting free will and superiority over the elements to the last. Manfred's lonely tower standing under the moon becomes the symbol of the overreacher. The hero is Manfred, and Manfred perfectly embodies the Byronic hero. He is solitary, driven by a sense of guilt. Darkly handsome, tyrannical, passionate, but also kind, intellectual and brave. Many of these elements were taken over Byron from the myth of Faust, Militant from the Gothic novel, and especially from the archetypical figure of Cain, as the man predestined to commit evil and to face damnation. Byron's dramatic organization of his materials is quite original. The world begins near to the ending of an action whose beginning is never fully described. One reason for this may be Byron's desire to give prominence to the enigmatic character of Manfred himself. Manfred becomes his own narrator and our main source of information, but he never reveals the exact nature of his pain. Byron also exploits a shifting point of view by assembling different perspectives on Manfred through the other characters of the play. Spirits, the abbot and his defendants. Byron manipulates the narrative by leaving gaps or implying an event without even describing it, so that the reader is left with the same sense of exclusion as that experienced by the hero. Contemporary reaction to Manfred were various. The poet Shelley found it depressing, while the German philosopher Nietzsche preferred it to the goddess Faust and felt profoundly related to this work. Two classical composers, Schumann and Tchaikovsky, were inspired to compose music for it.